Rogue Radio, now available on Mixcloud at mixcloud.com/Rogue Country. Keep it rogue.
Hey guys, this podcast is brought to you by Rogue Country. I fucking love Rogue Country. It's my favorite Facebook group, and it's one of the few Facebook groups I use that actually has people engage and talk and contribute to conversations that isn't just negative, repeating the same old debates about fucking pop country or complaining about what music they don't like. It's active people posting about the shit they actually enjoy, which is always so much better to read and watch and participate in. So head over to Rogue Country, go listen to Rogue Radio over on Mixcloud. And yeah, I absolutely fucking love working with them. I've found a lot of podcast people that I've sat down with and talked to from there. And there's really interesting folks. And everyone has a story, so it's always just interesting to meet different people who may be into something slightly different to yourself. Like country and roots music is such a wide genre and a wide type of music that so much can fit into it. You can have, fucking George Jones next to Blind Willie Johnson, next to, Sierra Ferrell, next to Dolly Parton. And it's such a wide-reaching thing that has so many facets that you can find the people that enjoy the stuff you like while also finding stuff that you don't necessarily know about but also speaks to you. So head over to Rogue Country and listen to Rogue Radio. Today's episode, as always, is brought to you by me and The Next Life, my debut record. I'm going to drop in a bit now so you can listen to it.
I'm not ashamed of where I'm from, but I ain't exactly proud that your mother on the corner, I think we used to hang around. But as I've gotten older, I can't remember now.
And as always, if you do dig it, if you enjoy the podcast and want to support me and support my music, head over to Mike333west.com. You can pick up The Next Life on vinyl over there, CD, digital. You can grab a t-shirt, a mug, whatever you'd like to grab. It's yours. I am doing a live stream show on the 7th of February on Facebook, and I'm bringing two of my friends with me, a previous guest of Into the Van, Harry Pedigo, who is a musician in Ohio, and that's the best thing about the internet is I wouldn't get to do a show with him in real life anytime soon, so he's graciously joined me on this 6-month anniversary of The Next Life, along with my friend Josh Bettis, a great musician from Wales. So I'm really excited to have that lineup for that live stream, which is on Sunday the 7th of February, starting at 7 p.m. GMT, which is British time. So if you do enjoy my music, you listen to Harry's episode on Into the Van and enjoy him. I'm definitely going to have Josh on at some point because he's, in Wales and closer to me. I'm probably going to wait until I can see him face to face so we can have a good old chinwag. But yeah, the 7th of February, Sunday the 7th of February, we're doing a live stream that's going to be kick-ass, and I can't wait to just get to play again. I don't want to oversaturate with live streams because everyone does it, and after COVID broke, everyone started doing live streams, so, when to do one and when not to do one is just as important as, doing them in general. You need to think about when you're doing it. But without further ado, today's guest is a doozy. Jane Allison is a musician. She has this great Laurel Canyon, 60s folk vibe to her that I really enjoy. She's also a comedian. She's an actress who currently stars across from David Schwimmer in a series called Intelligence. And yeah, this was a really fun chat that, covers a lot of her career in different mediums, and it touches on, Brexit and what the implications are for musicians. But, this is a really fun chat, and I really enjoyed getting to speak to Jane. I saw she was the Rogue Country featured artist the other week, and I saw that she was doing that, and I read her bio and stuff, and I was like, I have to talk to this fucking person. So I hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, this is episode 23 of Into the Van with Mike West and Jane Allison. Welcome to Into the Van with me, Mike West.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're rolling. I want to thank you for making the time to speak to us and stuff. And I really wanted, like, obviously you messaged the Rogue Country group, and that's how I found your stuff. And I was reading your bio and your about section on your website and stuff, and you've got such a prolific career of like interests in different mediums. How did you first get into, like, out of the music, theater, TV, and film, what was really like your first love?
Well, it kind of started when I was really young, actually doing musicals. You know, so all of it combined, the acting, the music, you know, theatre. And when I was really young, I worked backstage at Theatre Warren in Aberystwyth and did a lot of just anything I could that was to do with theatre. And then I went off and trained as a dancer at Laban, and then got into physical theatre and a lot of stuff in London with the kind of punk scene and all the new wave dancers, you know, that were around, like Michael Clark and the Chumleys and people like that, and got involved in that sort of very avant-garde physical theatre mixed with dance, mixed with music. And then I did that for quite a while. Went back to Aberystwyth and worked there with a dance sort of / theatre company. And then moved back to England and got into music again. And then I met Julia Davis, and we became a double act before Nighty Night and before all that, and toured around with a show we'd written, comedy stuff. It's all just been, I think my life's just really random.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, going with the creative flow, you know, of who you meet. And I always loved acting, music and dance. I'm far too old to dance now, apart from around my front room, or wafting around on a music video or something. But the acting has kind of taken off later in life for TV. I did a lot of theatre and live comedy, comedy improv with like Rob Brydon, Julia Davis, Ruth Jones, we're all in together. Yeah, so it is kind of, yeah, it is quite random really. And then ticking alongside, I've always had the music in different guises as the years have gone by.
Cool. And with that many things and kind of like in your arsenal, have you found, because I know writer's block is a thing that like curses everyone who's creative, but have you found yourself able to kind of dodge writer's block in a way? Because if you aren't trying to, like, if you're not really hitting a songwriter or you're getting stuck on that, you can then shift to, you know, a different medium, like writing something for TV or a comedy thing. Have you found that that kind of keeps you more agile in terms of avoiding writer's block, or do you still hit walls with it?
No, I'm not too bad with writer's block music wise. I've got I get that more with the writing sort of things, drama or comedy. I've got about 5 projects on the boil that I've not finished. But I don't know if it's writer's block or just a bit of kind of not lazy, I don't want to say laziness, but a bit sort of like maybe unmotivated, you know, like, oh, I need to get on with that, and, you know, not kind of getting on with it and stuff. But yeah, I think you're right. I think having the shifts, you know, I'll have 6 weeks of working on a TV show where that's all I'm doing. I'm just focused on that. I'm in that world. And then it gives me a break, I suppose. And I come out of that, and then in a way to relax or feed my own kind of inner self or whatever, you know, I'll pick up the guitar and start writing. And but it is all a bit random with me. It's a bit sort of like a yo-yo, everything I do.
And with going down to like studying for dance and stuff, what was it about dance outside of those other things that like drew you to make that your primary focus at that time?
Wow, it's quite a long time ago. I had always wanted, I did, you know, as a little girl, I did ballet and dance, and I always wanted to go to dance school, um, and never achieved it. And then I had a baby when I was quite young, in my early 20s, and having that child really focused me and my spare time. And I started just going back to dance classes to get fit again. And then the passion just was reawoken, and I decided to apply to dance school, you know. And I didn't tell anyone because I thought, if I don't get in, I'm not going to have to be ashamed of that. And I did get in, and I went as a slightly more mature student, and yeah, so it was, I don't know, it just kind of went that way.
Yeah.
And then I had a theatre company to come back to in Aberystwyth to work with, so they really wanted me to get proper training, you know, as opposed to just being quite good at dance.
Yeah. Oh,
you know.
cool. I think if you aren't in that headspace or you aren't in that world, you don't realize what training really goes into, you know, dancing or even acting. What was the training like for dancing, especially like in like your experience of it all?
It's tough, and I actually loved it, and I think it sets you up really well for being in any kind of arts, really, where you're going to have to face a lot of failure and rejection constantly, you know. And you've got, I think dance training really helps you not to take all that personally, because they're really tough on you in dance school, literally, you know, shouting at you as you're going across the floor, you know, sort of like, what the hell do you think that is? And you know, like really tough training, and all day, you know, class after class, and your body's in agony and stuff. But it gives you a real strength of perseverance and ability to just keep going even when it's really tough, and to just not really take criticism personally, and allow yourself to take constructive criticism. I think I'm really glad I had that dance training. I think it set me up quite well to persevere, in the face of very little results.
And that's a really interesting thing, because I think a lot of people, like, until you hit the adversity in the thing that you love, you don't really realize you love it as much until you're getting screamed at, or like in terms of music, when you have like a bad show or a show that goes really wrong, and you still want to do it the next day. You're like, oh, this is what I actually love to do. And I've been like, a lot of people who know me, like, I'm pretty stubborn when it comes to things. So if I hit like a level of adversity and something that I don't give a shit about, I'll drop it straight away. And the stuff I always stick at, no matter what happens, I'm always grind on it. And it's interesting, even in like training or academic situations, that kind of like trial by fire still happens, or it happens in that situation.
Yeah. And I think it's important, just, you know, life lessons and kind of building character, isn't it? Strength of character, you know, all the adversity and the shit you go through either makes or breaks you, and you know, hopefully it makes you a better, stronger person, really.
Definitely. And like, before that, what kind of were your influences, not just in music but also in terms of like theater and acting and comedy? Who would you say were your top 5 out of like those mediums that you gravitated towards when you were younger, and were like your guides, so to speak, towards those goals?
Yeah, my guides in music were Bowie, Patti Smith, Bowie from a very young age, like, you know, 14 or whatever, and Bolan, if I'm honest. He was the first, you know, sort of hero. Patti Smith, when I reached my kind of 19, I suppose I was, when I first discovered Patti Smith. She still is a massive influence. I follow her on Instagram, and she's just a wealth of like knowledge and about art and music, every kind of art. Bowie was the same though, you know, just so knowledgeable, so intelligent, so clever, so creative, so innovative. I mean, you could never live, you know, you can never be like them, but you want to. Do you know what I mean? They're like so amazing. And I think if you're going to have heroes in that, they've got to be so much better than yourself. It's like
Yeah.
you need something to look up to. Dylan and Neil Young really influenced me hugely. They're the kind of, I suppose, the top. Is that 5 or 4? Hang on, I've only said 4, haven't I? Yeah. Who would, I don't know who number 5 would be. Hard to choose. I suppose PJ Harvey, Kate Bush as well. There's kind of comedy when I was young was definitely Victoria Wood and Julie Walters were like, and French and Saunders. Who else? Oh God, it's hard, isn't it? Because it's having to narrow people down. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I was brought up on Morecambe and Wise, stuff like that with my dad. I'm sure those things influenced you, but Peter Sellers I really loved and found, all that sort of stuff, the Goon Show. I mean, this is way back when I was tiny, but they really get in your brain when you're really little.
Yeah, like I remember.
Parents listen to,
Yeah, I watched Harry Enfield when I was way too young.
Yeah,
I still have like a soft spot. My dad had this old VHS tape of a load of Harry Enfield sketches.
Yeah,
I think that still is probably like where I formed most of my comedy tastes.
Yeah,
from that initial thing. So when you're younger, that's like what you like really like. You're like, oh, this is comedy or this is music, and you kind of stand on that for ages.
Yeah, because it goes right in, doesn't it? And you look up to them. And then Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, I bloody loved them. And then all the people you're talking about, that genre, that era where it was sort of new comedy at the time was very. I suppose French and Saunders are all part of that team. That lot, what do they all call themselves? The 5 go on an acid trip or whatever. They all did those things, and they. And then what was the other one?
Dancing, like theatre or like acting in terms of,
In the early days, I was really influenced by Berkoff, and then Michael Clarke, all that kind of interesting mix of new theatre actors like Tim Roth and Gary Oldman. Stoppard, those kind of playwrights. Like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. I remember seeing that film with Tim Roth and Gary Oldman as the film of the play, and just like being like, really bowled over and all that kind of stuff, I suppose.
Cool. And with like the comedy stuff, like I love like stand-up comedy, and I'm a fan of Saturday Night Live, like the American show, where they really have this kind of comedy improv, like I'm trying to think of the word, like a proper tradition of that's how these comedians like come up through that and then go to those. And Britain has its own comedy and improv thing, but I don't know if it's ever really been given the same platform or, not necessarily success, but attention that it deserved. Obviously, you had like French and Saunders and those type of people. But what do you think like British comedy has that kind of rivals America, or where America has this platform, where does Britain need to provide like a platform equal to? Because I'd love a British version of Saturday Night Live with British comedic like improv actors.
That would be great. I'd love to see that. I mean, what did they have? They had there was an improv comedy show. Do you remember Josie Lawrence and what was that called? Oh my God. No, I'm terrible. My brain since COVID. I'm going to blame, it's lockdown, not my age. But I can't find the words sometimes. What was that show? There was a comedy improv show that was on telly for a short while in the sort of 80s, I think. But it was, we didn't really have a platform like that, did we? We've got groups of comedians who come up at the same time. Yeah. And then you've got and then you get a new group and stuff. But I don't think we really have something like that.
No, I wonder what the kind of cultural differences is, so that platform was never really created, because you have so many great comedic actors coming up, and you have like the duos from Morecambe and Wise, and even like you have Tommy Cooper back in the day, and you have like the new kind of ilk that are more stand-up comedians, but that's still, Saturday Night Live has that kind of comedian as well. But I don't know why the British haven't kind of embraced that format, because you have shows like The Masked Singer and The Voice and Britain's Got Talent taking those templates from the States, but they've not done it in a way that would create like this comedic stable of actors. And really, because that was like Saturday Night Live has been a launching platform for so many comedians, that to have something British to do that for our own film industry is something to be a really interesting.
That is such a good idea. I need to pitch that idea to someone. It really is, because you're right. We have taken on all the kind of, you know, The Voice and on X Factor and all that stuff. And I suppose way back you had the radio shows, didn't you? They were all part of Footlights. And in fact, that's where a lot of comedians have come from. Cambridge, Footlights, and then I don't know if Oxford have got one as well. So even a lot of the newer ones that come up, I think, but we don't have like a TV show, which yeah, I mean, it's just a brilliant idea. I'd really love to see that. Yeah, it'd be great. You could have old and new, couldn't you, all mixed up together, doing fab comedy, improv, and sketches and stuff. Yeah,
that's the thing, because I'd really love to see that. And like, I kind of lament where British comedy from, like, you know, like Mock the Week and stuff, because I love those shows. Yeah. But then you see like those comedians live and they're doing the same material, and then they do a TV show based off that material, and then you realize they've done, from what an hour special would be, they've got like 4 years worth of content from it, and it's the same, almost creating like a stale thing. While a lot of LA comics and stuff do an hour, and the second it's filmed they burn it and then redo it. And I don't know what the kind of formula is for British panel shows for comedians, but I think that's kind of led to a stagnation in terms of, especially the stand-up artists that I've watched from Britain or like the UK. But I'd love to see something that like really tests them and has them creating new content like all the time, because there's a lot of Americans and even some European people that they push the boundaries and they have to write stuff all the time. Well, I've kind of seen, like, I remember I saw Frankie Boyle and he did the same thing in like 3 different platforms. I saw him and I was really disappointed. Like relied on, like, it was just really funny stuff, but he'd relied on it for like, I think it was like a year or 2.
Yeah, well, that's very interesting. I mean, I haven't been to see any stand-up comedy for a while, and I think it tends to feed. So there's a different group of actors who are like comedic actors and writers who then do shows, you know, like TV shows, and maybe maybe they're not the same as the sort of stand-up comedians. Maybe that's the difference. Maybe there's a separation there of the 2 groups in a way.
But either way, I love, like, I've been watching a load of like Nevermind the Buzzcocks clips and stuff, because I just loved that atmosphere and that dynamic of things where it was a bit more random and haphazard and nothing ever really seemed prepared except the hosts stuff.
That was a good show. I liked that. Yeah, and I liked the mix of music and comedy, because they'd always have a few musicians on. Then they had Phil Jupitus and Noel Fielding, didn't they? As the kind of the captains, but there's always a bit of comedy in there. And it was a good format, that. Yeah,
but obviously going back to your music and your career with your new album, it's Like Magdalene. The single's out, I believe, is it today on the 15th?
Yeah, the single came out today, Magdalene, and it's off the album Like Magdalene, which will be released either the end of February or beginning of March. We haven't got the actual date yet, but
cool. And has like the release date been affected all, obviously, by COVID and things? Were you planning on releasing it earlier and doing a tour, or was it always around this time?
No, the release date actually was affected very badly by Pledge Music going into liquidation. I lost thousands of pounds. They bloody ran off with it, didn't they? They just bastards. Oh my God, it was so annoying, because literally the day they took all the money out of everyone's accounts, the very next day it went bust, and I was like, oh my God, literally, if only I'd have, because I could have extended it a few, you know, a little longer even. Or I would have just not had them take the money out if there'd been any warning. And they knew for I think over a year or more. It's complicated, but they had someone buy out or sort of help them. But in his contract, he made sure that if it went bust, every penny went to him. So the artists, I mean, people lost a lot more than I did, but that was really tricky. So that did, it kind of halted some stuff, and then COVID happened, and then something I was going to film, which was due to film in March, May and June, got postponed till September and August, and I was going to release the single around that sort of time. So then I had to shift that. It's like I just can't do both at the same time. It's too much, splitting myself into, you know, too many parts. So there was a few reasons it got delayed. But you know, I mean, it is what it is. It's
unfortunately, I spoke to Danny Vaughan from Taiketo a while back, and he was affected by the pledge stuff. And my friends, the Plot Hounds, they lost out because they'd done an album campaign, and I think it kind of went quiet from the mainstream because it still fucked over a lot of musicians, and people are still affected to it to this day. I know some people managed to get it back from other crowdfunding and things, like, because I remember it went down, but because I knew people who were having pledge campaigns, they were like, this is happening. So I went, and luckily I do everything through my credit card online, just so in case anything happens. So I went back and got a refund straight away and then sent it to them separately. But I know that they just basically did a cut and run on a lot of things. That was...
I know. And what was really annoying for me is I was going to do it on Kickstarter, which I'd done all my others on before, which is a great platform. And my laptop was so old, it wouldn't support it. I was like, oh, no. And I didn't have the money at the time to get a new laptop. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have to go choose another platform. And I chose Pledge. And you know, much to my disappointment, that happened. But it's just, and I tried to get the money back through legal means. I tried everything. I put a lot of effort into that, but there was no way. And then I didn't have the heart for another crowdfunder. I just thought, I just can't. I feel like hanging myself. It's just so awful. And also asking people again to play. I just thought, I can't do that. It's too much. It's just.
Well, what for your Kickstarter projects, because you have Methylene Blue and Just Another Girl as your previous albums, were both of those kickstarted?
Yes, I think both of them were. Yeah, I think so. Yes.
And how did you find that process for Kickstarter the record? Because I know I'm a huge comic fan as well. I put out comics as well. I know that kind of market for Kickstarter does really well, but the music ones I never really hear that much about. I don't know if it's just because I'm not in those circles, but how did you find those two initial projects?
Actually, pretty good. You know, I raised enough to sort of pay for some, you know, like maybe some of either the recording or the manufacturing. I think you rely a lot on, you know, if you haven't got a massive fan base, which I don't for the music yet. Try and be positive there, like an American. But you know, you rely on a lot of friends and family and fans, you know, who are mostly friends and things. Or sometimes it'll be Cooler Shaker fans, because Alonza produces and plays on my records. So that's quite handy, get a few of the Cooler Shaker fans. But yes, it's a lot of hard work, loads and loads of admin, which you have to be able to do these days anyway, if you're a musician.
I always think that being a musician now, it's like 80% admin and 20% you occasionally get to write a song.
Or go, you know, now you don't even get to play. It's it's so, you know, uninspiring, because it's just all admin and self-promotion, which is the worst thing. I mean, oh God, promoting yourself is hideous. But so Yeah, but Kickstarter and that Kickstarter platform is a good platform. And but I think there's only so many you can do. It feels to me like it's like constantly asking people for help just feels it feels hard in the first place. I find it hard. I'm very British, you know, like asking for money, help, and sort of praise or whatever. It's just like the three worst things. So it's a weird one, really.
Yeah, it's strange. I know, because I was looking at using Pledge Music. I released an album last year, and I was looking at Pledge Music to do that, and obviously it all went tits. So I used Bandcamp and kind of opened pre-orders super early as a way to kind of say, it's coming. If you buy now, you'll get it eventually. And like I did it in I kind of kickstarted it, but through Bandcamp by just opening pre-orders early. And it worked like surprisingly well. I was happy with how that went. So I think how I'll go about like new album, new music routes now is I'll open pre-orders as early as possible without it seeming like they're waiting 3 years for a record. I think I opened pre-orders in March and I released it in August, so it wasn't too big a gap.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Definitely. Yeah, I might take that for the next one.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think, especially with what COVID did, Bandcamp as a platform really supported artists, I think, in a way that no other like platforms did.
Yeah, they sort of wavered their little. I mean, they don't take a huge fee anyway, but they sort of wavered all that, and I'm very happy with Bandcamp. I think they're great, and it's easy to sort of navigate their site and load stuff up, and you know, it's not too sort of mind bending.
Yeah, even as a fan, I have like the app, so I can still like download everything from there and play it through that on my phone. So I just feel a bit better using that instead of Spotify every single day. But I still use Spotify a ton.
Yeah, Spotify, the old Spotify problem, because they were, was it the PRS was sort of trying to get them, or was it PLS, PP, I don't know, one of them, trying to get them to give the artist more, because the artist gets pretty much nothing on Spotify. But it's a very convenient way to listen to music and discover music, isn't it? So
yeah, I view Spotify now as a promotional tool.
Oh yeah.
To me now, anything streaming is a marketing platform. So I kind of see it as like an advert. It's not like anything that's ever going to come to me. It's 0.002 pence. Yeah. So in my head now, I just write off Spotify as that's a marketing cost.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good idea. And then there's all this kind of this new thing with playlists, isn't it? If you're added to playlists. I mean, I have to admit, I feel like I'm getting left behind. I'm feeling like a dinosaur. Like someone mentioned that with the promotion at the minute. And I'm like, oh God, another thing I've got to try and learn how to do and find out about. And so anyway.
Yeah, the Spotify playlist things is an interesting debate of like, because you can buy onto them and it's the same thing where it's pay to play and it's all that kind of stuff. And it just shows that kind of corruption, because you see people who have like 12 followers or listeners on Spotify, but then one of their songs has 1 million streams. And then you can kind of see where people have either bought bots or bought onto a playlist that's like boosted their numbers more than it ever would. So for me, I don't really put that much thought into Spotify. I always kind of, again, I just use it as, if you want to listen to me, go to there, hear it, but come to my Bandcamp, because that's where I make any type of money. But it's so hard now in this day and age for music. Like, this is the kind of what I grew up into. I've only been doing music for like 4 years, so it's like, of course you put it on Spotify. But for this year, how I look at approaching releases going forward is going to be completely different in regards to what happens with how I put stuff on streaming, because it's just, I just have to kind of adjust your aim now for how it works.
Yeah, true. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I'll still be releasing a physical CD for the album, but that's just because I like to still buy physical CDs. I like the artwork. I like the lyric sheets. You know, it's my, you know, that's just what I was brought up with. But I know some people don't even do that, and it's all just streaming. And maybe it feels it could be like a waste of money as well. I don't know, because people buying CDs unless they come to your gigs. It's sort of,
that's the thing.
I was going to release a vinyl for the single, and I was like, well, there's just no point. It would literally be a vanity project because it's going to cost me loads, because there's no point getting thousands made, because I mean, who's going to buy those? You're not at a gig, you're not. So that didn't happen. But
yeah, I put my record out on vinyl, but I did a super small run. That currently, I'll just show you quickly. Obviously, no one else can see this, but my cat's currently sleeping on my stock.
Oh yeah, on your stock. Yeah, my stock of things are all over the place. I've got boxes of CDs and things all over.
Yeah. But I put it out on vinyl because I know a lot of the people who support me will pick up the physical copy. So I wanted to create something, especially for a debut album. I wanted to create that. But I know for how I approach Spotify going forward, I'm going to, and I don't know if it's going to work, is I'm going to put everything on Bandcamp. And that's where you can get the physical, you can download it, that's where it's going to be. And I'm not going to put it on streaming sites for 6 months.
Oh yeah.
To try and create like an exclusivity and be like, this is where you need to support me.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
After that 6 months, I'll start putting them on Spotify. But the CEO said how you need to create more content and put something out like once a month. So I'm like, okay, if I do an album of 9 to 11 tracks, that's technically 11 months. I could put out a new single every month.
Well, I'm going to do something similar, maybe not that many, but I'm definitely doing another single before the album release, and then another couple of singles off the album again. And we're in the process of sorting out a video. It's not coinciding with the single release because of COVID and lockdown and different things. So we've had to just go, okay, look, it's not kind of done properly, inverted commas. It's going to be later and after the actual single release, but never mind. It's just releasing content and getting stuff out there. And if it's a bit late, it's a bit late. But so that will be, I think, mid-Feb, round about there.
Oh, cool. And with like Magdalene, what was your process behind creating the album? Because I think was your last album 2016.
Yes, and then this one was actually written. Well, I started writing it in 2018, 19. I was living in Berlin, so most of it was written there in Neukölln in Berlin.
Cool.
Berlin, and some of it was sort of in Wales. I was looking after my dad at one point, and a few songs were written then. So it's a mix of sort of where I was and stuff like that. The process of writing albums is I just get on a kind of I usually write an album and then record it, put it out, and then I just start the next one. It's like it starts. It's like, oh, now the new one is being born, or sort of. But it can take a few years. Like the writing process can take a year or so, and then the recording can take a while as well. To book the recording studio, go over to Belgium. That can be like a whole year. So it can be a kind of 2 or 3 year process for me. And then it's extended, this one, obviously, but yeah.
Oh, cool. And with Berlin, because I remember when I go to Berlin, the city has like a weight and a gravitas to it, but it also has such an undercurrent of art, and like there's a culture of just people creating like graffiti, and there's like music coming through, and it's kind of that weight of history meeting like a rebellion and an optimism from the future I found for Berlin. Did that play into, did you have that experience being there, or did it affect your songwriting in any particular way?
I think how it affected my songwriting is when I was living there, because I was living there for about 4 or 5 years altogether. I just have a sense of freedom and possibilities when I'm living in Berlin. I feel more authentically me there for some reason. I don't feel restricted by what I perceive to be other people's opinions, or sort of cultural sort of things of how one should be or look, or whatever, things like that. And and I'm not weighed down by the weight of our sort of politics and stuff like that, because I don't speak very good German, so I'm not getting the news. I'm not getting, you know, anything that's kind of bringing me down, if you know what I mean. And I'm in a kind of different bubble, and like you say, it's full of artists. So I know a lot of English speaking comedians. There's a whole English comedy scene there that's massive.
Cool.
And a English theatre scene, and then a lot of musicians who are from all around the world: German, French, English, American, Australian, and you're all mixing together. So the comedians, you know some musicians. It's all, and because you're all expats from all over the world, you have this common thing that you kind of get to know each other quite quickly, and you're kind of in the scene very fast. And
cool.
And it feels very nurturing, and it's a very poor city, Berlin. So on the one hand, you know, that means that you get a lot of people collaborating, and nobody's got much money. But so it's all, I think you have to come up with more ideas when you don't have a lot of money to put into something, and it stretches you, and it becomes more supportive and more collaborative. And I don't know. I particularly, my heart is still there, really. I never really intended to come back to England. So
that's really interesting. I have a friend who lives over in Berlin, and it does seem that like people do find some sort of peace or some sort of something that always pulls them back to the city.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a funny place. It's got a mix of so many things, but it's for me, everything about it just sort of lifts my spirit, really, from the sort of cobbled streets of the area I lived in. And it's sort of like being in a village as well. You're in your Keats, but you've got this whole city at your fingertips if you want it, but you don't have to. You can be in this kind of quite small villagey vibe, really. And we were down by the canal, which is really beautiful as well. So yeah.
Cool. And with that kind of sense of, you know, belonging and optimism, I feel that permeates music. Like with your single Magdalene, you have within like the first like 20 seconds, I felt it had like a Laurel Canyon vibe of that kind of, you know, bohemian culture where it is a collaboration and everyone's kind of lifting each other up. Was that an intentional influence from something that you've listened to for a while and you've wanted to put it into music, or is it something that's kind of a happy accident, if you will?
I think that the whole album just has got that slightly 60s Laurel Canyon vibe. It's just how it all came out. I can't really, like I say, everything I do is a bit random. I don't really sort of even know my influences myself at the time. It's just, I just improvise, and that's what sort of comes out. And as I was writing, I was like, oh wow, this is going to be like a kind of electric folk album. It's much less country and less British folk. It's much more got a 60s vibe. And then when I sort of mention that to Alonso, you know, I'll say, oh, I feel this is really late 60s kind of electric folk vibe. And then he just gets that straight away. And he adds, you know, all the kind of instrumentation and stuff in there.
Oh, cool. And how long have you been collaborating with Alonso for?
Oh God, years. It started actually when I was in a different band called Karma Diva, and he did a couple of singles and a remix for us. But I knew him before from as friends, because I'm friends with some of the guys from Kula Shaker, basically. So it's sort of like a little group of people who knew each other. And he'd started producing as well as obviously playing and being the bass player and stuff. And then I heard they put out a record called Strange Folk, which was quite acousticy, much more of a sort of acoustic folk album, psychedelic folk. And he produced it, and I thought, oh my God, I really like the way he's produced that. So then I asked him if he would produce my solo stuff once the band I was in split up. And then we started from there. So it started that proper collaboration with Just Another Girl, where I was sort of going to his studio in Belgium and working, you know, on a whole album rather than just a couple of little project singles and things.
Oh, cool. And with like playing or going to Belgium and obviously living in Berlin and stuff, did you tour and gig around Europe as well?
I did a lot with the other band, Karma Diva. That's that's how I ended up living in Berlin, because we toured Europe for about 8 years.
Really?
Yeah, we did all the English, you know, circuit, hiking down to London, the Carnarvon Castle, Hope and Anchor, you know, that whole scene, the indie scene, and just felt like we were getting nowhere. You know, just paying to play, and you know, lucky to get a dressing room, let alone a drink, you know, at the end of it, let alone paid. And then we, I can't remember how, but we met some promoter from Germany who took us on, and we suddenly got all these gigs, and we just went on tour constantly around Europe, Holland and Germany mostly. Yeah. And had such a different experience, made money, covered all our costs, were fed, watered, you know, put up in hotels, and people bought albums, people came to gigs. It was sort of like, and we just thought, oh wow, this is just so much better. And then I ended up moving there because, and then I did mostly more small gigs with my own stuff, because I've only just got a backing band. I'm just doing me and a guitarist, or me and a pianist and stuff like that. And a lot of gigs in Bristol I did as well a few years ago. And then recently, just before COVID, I got a backing band together, and we were just starting to get the gigs sorted, but it's all, put on hold now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I saw on, I think it was either your Facebook or on your website, you'd done some shows with Mark J. Lee, who's a friend of Row Countries and is a phenomenal country musician as well. But with the Europe scene, like, I found the same thing. I was trying to, like, if I didn't play Europe, I'd have probably given up as a musician. Because being in Liverpool and the Northwest, it wasn't just, I wasn't finding anywhere I fit in, and I wasn't finding the people that were getting it in this kind of same way. And I was just like, fuck it. Went to Europe, and like, I've booked a few venues that I'd seen people who like me who played there, and the reception I got is like, I know it's selfish and obviously there's bigger things at stake with Brexit and stuff, but I'm so fucking gutted that that's been jeopardized in any way. Like, I have no idea when I'll be able to head over there or what I'll have to do to get over there.
No, I know. I'm absolutely gutted. I've still got all my stuff in storage there. I literally was going to go back to live, and I don't know what now I just, it's like my dreams. It's like someone's cut my head off. I'm just like, no, you know, how am I going to get back there? I've got a cellar full of all my stuff still there, and all the gigging, and just my life. My life over in Europe. I'm just, I mean, I'm one of the gutted people too. Obviously, everyone has a different opinion, but as an artist, I'm effing gutted.
Yeah, like, as an artist, I don't know what the deal will be with those 30-day windows and what visas and stuff are going to be, but it's just because I have, like, that's where I kind of made an impact or made a dent. Was playing the European market in Belgium and Holland and like Germany. They look after you so well, and they're so receptive that you don't realize how little that happens in Britain.
I know. I mean, I don't want to diss, you know, my own country or the scene here, but it's so different over there, and it's just really different. And unless someone's experienced it, you can't really explain it, can you? No. You just get treated with such a lot of respect. It doesn't matter what level you're at, as long as you're half decent and you put the work in, and you've got something quite good to offer, you know, from the audience to the promoters to the crew to everybody, you're just treated just with a lot of respect and kindness, and and you get paid.
Yeah, that's the main mind-blowing thing as a British musician, to head over to Europe and actually get paid something.
Get paid, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But with obviously touring Europe and stuff is kind of on shaky ground now. Have you done much touring of the UK? Obviously, I've seen you've played with Mark Jaley and stuff around Bristol, but have you done much around the UK, or have you got that planned for the future?
We haven't done much around the UK yet. Yeah, I've done a few. I met Mark years and years ago in the Bristol scene when he was with Howlin' Lord and stuff. Done quite a few gigs with him. But yeah, it's quite difficult as well if you've got a whole band to take a band somewhere further afield and then they don't get much money at the end of it.
Yeah.
And we're all of a certain age. You know, I'm not 20. I'm way past 20. You know, so it's quite hard to get older musicians as well to, you know, play for nothing. So I don't know, and I honestly just have no idea what the climate's going to be like when we come out of COVID. I don't know what the landscape's going to look like for live gigs in this country, or for us going abroad. I don't know how that's going to work. It's all a real unknown. And I think if I didn't have my acting, which is where I can make money, and also a bit of writing I do for TV and stuff like that, I think I'd be absolutely lost, you know.
And what acting projects do you have on at the moment?
Well, we've just finished filming the second season of Intelligence, which is written by Nick Mohammed, a good friend of mine. I've done some other projects with him before as well. And that's with David Schwimmer as the kind of lead in that. That will be out in spring. Fingers crossed we get a third series, which we then would, you know, I mean, I'm just fingers crossed. I think I know, I'm not allowed to say, I don't know for sure. But and then there's another project in the pipeline with Nick as well, which I've been doing a bit of writing with him but we don't know about that yet either. It's not got commissioned yet. So and then I'm writing a few things, but that, you know, that could take years.
Yeah.
And then I'm always auditioning for stuff, so who knows?
Yeah.
It's all self-tapes now, which
that's really interesting. What's kind of like the process behind writing for TV or film and things? Like, what do you kind of go into? Like, what's the first thing you do in undertaking one of those projects?
Well, usually if it's, I mean, the only things I've actually had on TV are collaboration things where I'm asked to work on something with someone. So I've done a lot of stuff with Julia Davis, where she'll have a project and then she will come to me and then we'll improvise all the characters and record everything that we do. And then that gets, you know, she'll hone that down and take it and write the show out of it. So we did that with Nighty Night, Camping, what else? A few other things worked with her. And then the same with Nick, we do the same through improvising. We did a show called Morning is Broken, which was going to be a series, but didn't end up as a series. It was just a pilot. And then another thing we're working on now. So it's my skill is mainly through improvising characters from stuff, and then stuff I write myself. I'm just tapping away writing, and then you have to do a treatment, and then you have to get a production company on board, and then they will try and find a TV company that will take it on. So kind of process with that.
That's so interesting. And with, like, obviously you've got like your film and TV career next to music, what do you think represents your artistic voice better, or do they both serve a different purpose for you?
They both serve a really different purpose. Acting, because even with acting, there's there's comedy, and then there's sort of dramatic, you know. So the comedy I particularly like because I like character acting. I like to become other people. That's just something for me is, I suppose, a kind of more instinctive. You know, that's my method. It's just I slightly, without sounding like a bit naff, I slightly channel the character, if you know what I mean, become the character. And I really love doing that, and I really love being involved in projects like that. And it's when it's comedy, it's just such a joy because you're just having a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, and you're not really allowed to laugh much because it's all on the clock. There's always someone there, you know, like the crew are like, come on, you know, it's not funny, get on with it. But you're always nearly laughing and, you know, inside having a sort of feeling a lot of joy. And the music is much more personal, and I guess I'm more confident with the acting. I know what I'm doing. I know how I'm doing it. It's all, you know, I'm just there as an actress or a writer, or, you know, I bring those skills in when we're improvising, maybe on set. But I don't have to take care of anything else. With music, it's kind of a bit heavy because you're having to take care of everything else yourself. And you've got to be the sole motivation. Even with your band, if you're the leader of the band, you've got to be the sole motivator. And, you know, that's quite hard if you're prone to, you know, sort of getting a bit down or whatever, without going into my mental health issues too deeply. But also you're slightly bearing your soul, aren't you, with music? You know, the stories often have some element of yourself in them. And then also, you know, I don't know, just your own voice is always a bit like, ooh, I don't like the sound of my own voice very much. It's just a bit more, I don't know, like...
Yeah. No, it's such a weird one, and that's why one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about was because I've never been inclined in any way, shape, or form for like acting or drama. Like when I was in high school, I had like horrendous stage fright, where I can't wear masks, I couldn't like act or speak in front of people, and you know, I basically failed GCSE drama and stuff because I couldn't take that step to act or do anything like that. But the second I have a guitar in my hand, it's like the most comfortable thing in the world, no matter who I'm in front of or any stage. It's just like I always feel just like completely natural. Now I really want to talk to people like yourself who have that kind of duality, and it's interesting how the acting is kind of your not comfort zone, but that's where like you find a strength and
it is stability in it. You're right, yeah, it is. And I think it probably comes from just, you know, just like even in childhood, you know, my way of coping with anything was, you know, putting on an accent, putting on a character, being funny, being the clown, getting out of tricky situations by, you know, being like that. Or that's just my sort of go-to everything, even with my parenting skills. You know, it'd be like, in fact, I had a Liverpool character that I used to do when the kids were naughty, where I'd be like, I mean, really swearing and being like, talking like this, screaming at them and saying, it could be like this. You know, you're lucky, I could be screaming in your face. You know, you're lucky that you got me. And they'd be like, Mum, don't be her. Or different characters, you know, that would just lighten the situation, get them to do what I want, whatever. But it is my comfort zone. Yeah. And I'm more comfortable when I've got a band behind me. Once I've got a full band behind me, then I'm comfortable. If it's just me and my guitar, I'm just like, I don't know, it's so exposing. And I'm not like a brilliant guitarist, you know, it's taken me 30 years to learn the freaking basics, just sheer perseverance of wanting to write, really. But
yeah, no, it's a strange one. Like, I remember I was in a metal band first, and having a full band, it was a completely different thing. But also, when you're in a metal band, you're kind of in like a headspace of bravado, and it's still like distancing yourself from what you are. But like,
yeah,
I've been watching different things on TV, and if someone's like playing in front of someone with a guitar, it's making me miss live shows so much, to just be able to be on stage and stuff. But we're coming up to the hour mark, and I don't want to keep you too long. So you've got your album coming out in February, is it?
End of February, beginning of March. The single's out today.
Amazing. And have you sent, like, have you sent it to reviews and things? Has there been an initial response to it yet?
There's been a few that have come in. Yeah, so far so good. I sent out a load of stuff, but like I said, I've been a bit haphazard with the whole thing. So I still got more to do, and I'm a bit late. So
that's the thing. It never really ends with promotion and stuff. I'm still promoting an album that came out in August.
I know. And then I always think, oh, I'm doing it wrong, and then I'm like, oh, whatever. I can't I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's that.
Yeah. Well, this podcast will drop on the 26th of January, and I'll be pushing it all and stuff with the album. And I can't wait to listen to the full thing. Like Magdalene was a really great track, and it just had this like airy optimism that kind of had that Laurel Canyon with a Kate Bush vibe to it that I really enjoyed, and it was really something that was different to what I've heard coming through lately. It was really like, it wasn't a nostalgic or a throwback thing. It had this fresh perspective on a familiar genre, which I really enjoyed.
Oh, cool. That's great. That's great. And it's also quite unlike me to be so optimistic. So I think, I'm glad I chose that for the single then. That's good.
No, it's great. I can't wait to hear the rest of it, but I'll let you get on with the rest of your day. And I really can't thank you enough for sitting down with me today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's been great. And I'll send you a sneak preview to the album if you like.
Oh, definitely. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. Boom. And there we go. That's episode 23 of Into the Van, Into the Bag. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a blast talking to Jane. It was such an interesting, talk and a perspective that I've not really had a chance to explore yet. And that Laurel Canyon vibe, I'm really hyped to listen to her record, and you should definitely check it out. And keep supporting Into the Van, keep supporting Rogue Country. Go pick up The Next Life if you haven't. Go pick up Magdalene and all of Jane Allison's music. And until next time, guys, stay safe. Peace.